Hey everyone, it's Fitz with the post-game walk and talk. Kansas State wins down here in Lubbock, 25-24. Not a pretty game. 12 penalties for the Wildcats, 2 crucial turnovers. They did a lot of things wrong and still found a way to rally and get this win. And the interesting thing is down here at Tech, we're up this tunnel that's behind me. Can't really see it. And that's the locker room. And so we're actually in a little storage room right off the locker room. So we can hear everything going on in that locker room. Ironically, that's the Mike Leach locking a player in a storage area room that we do postgame in. But we can hear everything in that locker room. And to say that was a sense of relief, that these guys were really, really happy to get out of here with a win, is a vast understatement. It wasn't like an overjoyed, just beat Oklahoma type thing, but they needed that. They needed that in the worst way, and they almost executed that in the worst way, and it doesn't matter. At the end of the year, it's a win and not a loss. Going into next week against a very good TCU team that played on this field earlier this year and absolutely ran through that Tech defense that the Tech people tell me was so much better today than it has been. They needed that to be ready for TCU, to feel prepared better. But that doesn't get them off the hook for all the things that went wrong in this game. There's just too many penalties, too much silliness. The turnover was just atrocious on that first kickoff that Malik Knowles handled. And then he had a penalty late in the game for ripping off a player's helmet that forced K-State to kick the ball off really deep. Ended up being the 15 after an offsides. But Ty Zentner really dug him out of that hole with some great kicking. It's just an ongoing frustration that this team doesn't play nearly as clean as it needs to play at the Big 12 level. And whether that's playing against Oklahoma or Iowa State or Texas Tech or next week TCU, they got to pull it together. They got in their own way constantly throughout this game and still found a way to win. Skylar Thompson completed 80% of his passes. Now, early in the game when I saw him throwing the ball around, so I'm tossing it quite a bit, and I was really beginning to wonder, is he on today? Because he was not quite sharp. But boy, he got sharp as the game went on and made just enough plays. But the play of the game and the player of the game was Felix Anyaduke with an incredible safety that literally flipped this game on its ear. Tech was coming off a great defensive stop and honestly some pretty mundane play calling for the Wildcats to open up that third quarter. Then to get them pinned back a little bit with the punt. Great job by Ty Zentner, who might actually be the player of the game in some ways. Then to get the safety just really ignited the K-State sideline. And that's when you kind of saw panic set in for Texas Tech. And they were never the same after that. They didn't play with any confidence, and K-State's defense pitched a shutout in the second half, and it wasn't an Oklahoma State shutout where they weren't trying to score. Tech was putting their best stuff out on the field, and it was going nowhere. So really has to be a great sense of relief for this team because Kleiman was happy, but he knows you can't do the stuff you did in this game and beat better teams than Texas Tech. A Texas Tech team who's 5-3 now and staring down a murderer's row of Big 12 opponents to finish out this season. And if you ask people around here, Matt Wells and Texas Tech are about at the end of their relationship, particularly if he finishes this season with 4 more losses and doesn't get to a bowl after being 5-2. Maybe the heat comes off Chris Kleiman and the staff a little bit, but whatever the attitude the fans take, it shouldn't matter. It just shouldn't. This team needs to pull inside and say, this is about us. We got to cut down our penalties. We got to cut down our turnovers. We got to be better. What changed on defense in the second half? They played harder. They were more sound. As Chris Kleiman said, they set the edge. They did things winning teams do in the second half. That's a good sign. 4-3. Got that losing streak ended. Home for TCU, off to KU, home for West Virginia. Got to keep rolling. Got to keep rolling. We'll talk to you after Tuesday's game, or Tuesday's press conference, with the pregame walk and talk for TCU. And of course, check out our daily deliveries throughout the week at GoPowercat.com and YouTube.